So now we want to cut our skirt, our mermaid skirt, 6 pieces mermaid skirt, because you need to know that sometimes you can have a mermaid skirt without making it in 4 pieces or 6 pieces or 8 pieces as you may want to. So a normal mermaid skirt is like this. At about the knee area, you see it now spreads out, so it becomes really wide to the bottom, but it's fitted from the top. Then at the back, you can decide to also have a train like this, and it also expands from the knee. But the 6 pieces skirt means we're going to cut the front into three parts, okay, like that. So the front will have 3 pieces, then the back 3 pieces. But because of the zip allowance at the back, you may have 8 pieces when you put them apart, because the center part of the back will be divided into 2 to create allowance for your zip. So at the back, you're going to have something similar like that on each side of the back. So this is just one piece of the back pattern. So for you to cut your 6 pieces skirt, because that's all we want to cut today, but it's the same principle that applies to whether it's 4 pieces, whether it's 6 pieces, whether it's 8 pieces, or whether it's 12 pieces. So the only technique there is that you're going to divide all your measurements into the number of pieces you want for your skirt. So I'm going to cutting a 6 pieces skirt. So I'm going to divide my measurements by 6. So my hip, I'm going to be cutting a size 12. So I like to use inches, not centimeters. So I will divide my hip, which is 42, by 6. That's 7. My waist is 33. We're going to divide that by 6, which is 5.5. Then for the knee area, normally for a skirt, most skirts, you use your waist for your knee. That gives you a really very accentuated bottom. But because I want to start making my shaping it out a little bit further up from the knee, I'm deciding to add some extra inches to the waist measurement. So instead of using 33, I want to use 36 or 35. So if I use 35, okay, and I divide that by 6, I'm going to be getting like 5 3/4. Okay, let's do 5 3/4. That can be very tricky when we're doing the calculation, but anyhow, let's go. So this is my paper, and it's folded into 2, like you can see, because to cut the first piece, you need to cut the first piece, and after cutting the first piece, you're going to use that first piece to cut every other piece. Okay, that's how it works. So you just need to create your pattern with the very first piece, and that is why it's important that you don't get it wrong. So first and foremost, how much fabric do you need to fold? You need to fold at least, for the first piece, 2.5 the size of your hip, times 2.5 times your hip measurement. So the hip measurement divided by 6 is 7. So what I have folded here should be at least 20 inches or more, or 22, 25 inches long or wide, to be able to create a nice flare at the bottom. You can also times that 7 by 3, and that will give you if you times 7 by 3 is 21. If you times it by 2.5, is about 16 inches wide. So whatever you decide, it's fine. And you can also make it wider than that. It depends on how much fabric you have. But to cut the skirt, you need at least 3.5 yards or meters of material to make it really beautiful and, you know, come out well. So let's get the length of our skirt first. So you need to ascertain the length of your skirt. So I'm doing 36 inches long skirt. So this is what I have here. Now it's folded into 2. So I'm going to start measuring from the folded point. So let's get the dimensions from the top of the fabric of the pattern. To get my hip, I'm going to measure 8 inches. And this top will be my waist. Then to get my knee, normally the knee would have been around 20 or 19. But because it will start expanding or spreading from a little bit higher than the knee for ease of movement, I'm going to use 17 as that point. So you want to take note of that. Don't use your exact knee measurement, your knee length, when you want to shape your skirt. It should come a little bit, like 2 inches away from your knee. All right, so that's my hip, that's my knee, and that's the bottom of my skirt. So let's get our waist divided by 6, gives us 5.5. So I'm still going to divide that 5.5 into 2 because this is folded into 2. So 5.5 into 2 is going to give me about 2 3/4. So that's 2 3/4. Then the hip, I got 42, which is the inch hip measurement, divided by 6. That's 7. So 7 into 2 is 3.5. So 3.5, that's 3.5. Then for the knee, which is 35, divided by 6, I'm getting 5 3/4. So if I divide that into 2, I'm going to be getting about 2.5 will be 5, 2 1/4, and just a little bit beyond that. So that's the measurement: waist, hip, and the knee. Okay, so now we're going to get a ruler and we're going to connect it. Then from that point, you need to connect the knee from the hip. Yeah, so that's the shape of our skirt. So you want to make sure you don't have sharp edges this way. It needs to be rounded and not sharp, because you don't need angles when you start cutting. So from this point, now we're going to go all the way out to the bottom. So it depends on how much fabric you have. Like I said, you fold 3 times your hip measurement when divided into 2, or 2.5 times your hip measurement when you fold your fabric into 2. So this is the shape of our skirt. So to this, before you cut, don't forget you need to add 1/2 inch. And the reason you're adding 1/2 inch is because you're going to stitch these pieces together. Don't forget, you're going to be having 6 different pieces. So by the time you stitch 2 together, 1/2 inch this way, 1/2 inch that way, you must have taken 1 inch off. So if you don't add this extra 1/2 inch allowance, it's going to be smaller than what you were supposed to get. So make sure you add the 1/2 inch allowance all the way to the bottom, because that is going to be your seam allowance, your sewing allowance. So I'm doing that all the way to the bottom. And once we're done with that, we can cut. We're going to cut. So this one piece now, you're going to replicate into 6 different parts. And that is what will give you your 6 pieces. But after cutting this, now we need to cut the back. The back is slightly different from the front because of the zip. So you need to see what I'm going to do with that. So keep watching. So now I've cut off the front piece, and this is what we get. So you see, it's spread out at the bottom like that. Okay, now we're going to place this, fold it, keep it on fold, get our back piece. And because this is the back and the middle needs to be straight, I don't need to fold into 2. Okay, because this you use to cut 2 more pieces for the front now and 2 at the back, and the center one needs to be slightly adjusted, and that's what I want to show you. The center piece at the back, you need to create allowance for your zip, because you're going to add zip. You want to leave at least 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches all the way to the bottom. So you get your ruler and you need to mark that, the 2 inches point. So it's against this backdrop that you're going to start cutting. So the 2 inches is not to be taken off, it's to be left because it's going to serve as your zip allowance. So I'm drawing that all the way to the bottom. Voila, that's done. So now you need to place this against this and you cut around it that way. So just get your chalk or your marker like I'm getting now and just draw. Make sure this is well positioned because you don't want it moving. So to keep that in place, you can get your pins. Okay, and it is done. That is the back piece. So to cut the center back piece, you need to be folded into 2. So that is the piece for the back. So we can cut there because I added the allowance, the 1/2 inch allowance. Then just one more thing, in case you want to have like a train behind your 6 pieces skirt, it's still possible. In that case, you're going to move this a lot away from the zip allowance. Your zip allowance needs to be more. It can be up to like 8 inches, okay, or 10 inches. It depends on how much fabric you have. So you can place it about 10 inches away from the back and you position it this way. Okay, then you're going to start from the knee measurement. Where you have the knee measurement, all you need to do is place this, you mark the knee, then you're going to create your 2 inches or 1 inch zip allowance. It depends on how much you want, but if you're having a train, 1 or 1.5 is fine. So we're going to do that, 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, like that. Get your ruler and rule this. And that's where your knee stops. Okay, so from the knee, you now go all out to the bottom. So you make it a sharp curve all the way out like that. And at this point as well, from your 2 inches mark, you want to rule against your pattern in front. I hope I'm not confusing you. It's just different ways to make your skirt really full. Okay, so now I've traced that. I'm going to cut this out. So what this does is that it gives you fuller fitting at the back. So that's how you get your train for the back piece. So you need 2 of this and you will need 5 of this. Okay, altogether it's going to be like 7 pieces because of the zip and the train behind. So it's that straightforward, and I hope it's easy. So if you like my video, please don't forget to give a thumbs up or subscribe so I can keep making more videos. So till I see you next week, it's bye from me.